Can you see it?
I'm on YouTube. Is that the YouTube? No, that's. PLATO Training.
Yeah. Is Eric on the line as well?
Because the live video broadcast will begin soon.
Okay, it should have started, so it should let me know once it pops up.
Bosco and I are here in Inglewood, and then Eric, are you there? Okay. It does, Frank.
It's showing?
Oh.
Sorry, you can see it now?
Let me see, I just clicked. Okay, give me a second. Oh. No.
Did it show up?
It says, oh my God, it says the browser don't currently recognize.
What kind of computer are you on right now?
I'm on my HP.
Okay.
It's,
and did you just click the link?
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna send you another link. Tell me if this works. Eric, it looks like he's on the line. Eric, are you there?
Eric.
So he's in the broadcast. I'm unable to hear him though.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Okay, link to webinar. Yeah. Okay. So link save. Okay, let's go back in here. Got it. Let's go back in here. And
Hello?
Hello?
Is this Eric?
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent. I just sent Maria another link to see if she's able to access it. What's going on with that link, Maria? For Maria. You're good to go.
Okay.
it says something about your browser is not recognized as your format available.
Okay, so there's some sort of issue with your computer. Why don't we go ahead with the training, and then since we're recording it, do you have an IT person that can help you resolve that? Sounds like there's a setting or something needs to be updated.
Okay.
So do you have someone that helps you with that kind of stuff, or someone you know maybe that can help after we get off of the webinar, and then that way you can watch the video? Okay. All right, so let's just go ahead and proceed then. Okay, so Eric, you've been in the PLATO system, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and you basically said that your issue you kind of hit a stumbling block when you get to the point of trying to assign content?
Well, no, what's happening specifically is, I think I may have figured it out, but when I assigned the course, I think I was under the assumption that when I assigned one, it assigned everything, and then I noticed that it was one portion was just the math,
I get you. Okay.
and then I had to create another like course or training with a different name to assign me all the other courses under the
Okay.
umbrella.
Okay. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of PLATO, and we'll go through the assigning courses and content and so forth. So the first thing to keep in mind with PLATO is it really is super easy to navigate. So you kind of want to go into it with the notion that it's easy to find out where things are. You can play around with it a little bit to kind of learn your way. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So you can start by creating a class, or you can start by assigning PLATO courses, titles, test packs, etc. You can start by creating a learner. You can directly go into content, assignments, classes. We'll touch on reports a little bit. Your portal is going to look a little bit different than mine because I'm the account administrator across the network. You can, of course, communicate with students. A couple of things I wanted to point out before we get started. Up here you'll see some tabs. For instance, there is Inform. If you want to go into Inform and check it out, it's a pretty neat feature. Basically, it's actually courses for PLATO instructors. So you can brush up on your skills, learn about how PLATO works, take a few take a few courses to help you become a better PLATO instructor. So it's not required, but it's something that's out there that may help you out. The Edmentum Sensi is basically just kind of a high-octane version of the communication tool that you have available in the general PLATO portal, which is what we're in now. So you can email your class, you can assign content, and so forth. With the Edmentum Sensi piece, it just gives you some enhanced features with scoring, review, module completion. It communicates with you. You can communicate with students. So really, it is again just a high-octane, enhanced version of the communication tool that you have within the PLATO portal here, which is mostly just messaging alone. So it adds the piece of the scoring, completion of modules, tracking students. So again, that's not required that you use that. You can track your students using the regular PLATO portal. It's just something that if you want to use it, it's there for you. You might want to check it out. So when you get to the PLATO landing page here, this home page, again, you can kind of go about the process any which way. You can start with creating a learner and end up assigning them content, adding them to a class. You can start with creating a class and then assign them. You can assign content, then create the class. It really is user friendly. So you don't have to be super concerned about the steps to get there. What I would really recommend is get in there. You can create some test classes, some dummy classes if you will. Get familiar with assigning content, and we're going to go into that specific concern you had about thinking that assigning one piece of I'm assuming it was the GED, assigning one course of the GED automatically doesn't necessarily assign the whole thing. So we'll go into that. What I would recommend is going into content the next time you log in. What you'll want to do, go ahead.
I'm in PLATO, so as you're giving us the tutorial, Marco and I were in there. Okay.
Okay, great. So what I would do is you'll see that there's my content and favorite content. Really, these are just places that you can take the content specifically that you plan to use on a regular basis. And in this case, it would be the GED preparation curriculum and then most likely the GED test simulator. So what you'll you'll see that I just have a couple things in here. For example, I have some developmental math, computer and applications technology. Under favorite content, I just have only the preparation for the GED test math in here. Everything you'll want is under the tab PLATO content. So again, I would play around with this. If you want to get more familiar with it, you can search by standards, search for a custom resource. One thing you can do up here is you can change the subject areas you're looking for, and you can override the grade levels. For instance, just as an example, maybe you're only looking for K through 8. Maybe you're only looking for foreign languages. Maybe you're looking for vocational arts and services, so some job skills training courses. You can go in there and filter it, just like you would on many different web programs these days. For now, we're just going to cancel. Yeah, go ahead.
A quick question.
Sure.
What are the courses specific to the GED prep training?
Exactly. So that's what
I'm only selecting course the first 4 and the simulated test.
Yeah. So we're gonna go into that. So again, all I did was I started the home page and I went right into content. This is really going to be the first thing you'll want to do as an instructor. You're going to PLATO content. This tab is where to start. All of the courses and titles and test packs for PLATO are housed. And actually, for GED, it's pretty easy because when you click on PLATO content, it shows up right here. So what you're going to want to do, add this to favorite right here. Math. I already have it.
Add to favorite PLATO content.
You're going to click PLATO content, and then you see at the top of the list, there's all of the GED preparation sections. So I already have math. So when I tried to click add to favorite, it already exists. Then I go down to the reading and language arts, add to favorite. Now you can see it's under favorites with the math. Going back to PLATO content, science, add to favorite. Social studies, add to favorite. Now you can see that my favorite courses are all of the GED courses that you'll need to go ahead and assign each of these to your specific students to prepare for the GED test. We're going to go into assigning it in a minute, but do you have any questions about how to or the benefits of pulling that into your favorite content? Basically, it's easy access for you.
Are there any additional courses we could be adding to favorite?
Yes, you can, and there specifically I'll show you the GED test simulator, which isn't technically a course, it's a test pack, but you're going to add that as well. Now, going back to PLATO content, as of right now, what I've done is I've added all 4 of these, which are the key GED preparation courses. Those are the 4 courses you're going to need for your students to prepare for the GED. Those have been added to favorite content. What I want to show you just for demonstration purposes is that the PLATO course library that we have is very extensive. There's all kinds of different courses on here. So particularly for you, Maria, you'll want to scroll through, just become familiar with what you have available. It's good to know for future programs. It's good to know if there may be a student who needs some additional assistance. For instance, TABE is on here, the Test of Adult Basic Education. All kinds of math, science, history courses that you would need for high school, every grade from K through 12. Academic skills courses. You have some other interesting things here. Let's see. You have the ACT Work Keys courses, which are similar to the National Work Readiness preparation materials that we're using for the Walmart program. So it's something that you may go through here, find something, a particular course, unit, module that you want to integrate with your in-classroom material. You don't have to. It's just there if you want it. The other thing is it may be an option for students who need maybe some additional time. If you have a computer available or if they have a computer at home, they can go on one of these work keys, and particularly with the applied mathematics, they can work on some of these modules to help get them better prepared for the National Work Readiness test. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's not required. I wanted to let you know that it's there if you need it. Now, just kind of to reset where we're at. We've already added the math, reading, language arts, science, and social studies prep sections for the GED. Those are the core courses that the folks for the GED component of the Walmart program, you're going to want to have them go through to prepare. We also want, now just as a note, PLATO titles are similar to the core PLATO courses, except they don't all have a pre and a post test, and really they're still essentially courses. They're just not necessarily as long, and they're more specific. There's some unique courses in here, and they don't have a pre and a post. So going back to PLATO courses, you'll see that for each unit there's a pre-test and a post-test. So if that individual already really has all of these unit areas covered, and these are of course areas that may or are likely to be covered on the new version of the GED test, they will pass the pre-test with an 80% level and be able to test out of this unit and move on to the next unit. If they don't test at if they don't test at an 80% level, they'll go ahead and go through all of these. You'll have a tutorial, application, mastery, until they get to the post-test, and at that time they should be prepared to pass it at an 80% mastery level, therefore moving on to the next unit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go into some of the specifics of the courses in a moment. What I want to show you is the test packs. Here you can see we have the old simulated test package. This is based on the GED prior to 2014. It's there if you need it, but as you both know, the GED has become much more challenging. They've added some areas. It's unlikely that you'll need it or use it, but it is there. The one that you'll want to use with your folks is this GED test pack. And you know that it's the new version of the GED because it's got the registered GED trademark. So here, for each section of the GED, you're going to have... Go ahead.
Oh, okay, the trademark. This is the GED test. The one that
It's got that little R with a circle around it. It's trademarked.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
And you can also tell, just if you're not sure. I mean, this one's at the top for a reason. The GED, the Edmentum test pack. The old version was called the simulated test package. And you can also tell just by opening it up, you can see that all of the sections reflect the new version of the GED, where the old version is a little bit different. So you can also know that way. So for each section of the GED, for instance, for science, there's 3 tests, 3 preparation simulated tests essentially. For social studies, there's 3 tests. So you may have an individual who goes through all the modules. This is unlikely, but it's possible. So you may have a student who goes through all of the modules. They've passed, whether it's the pre-test or the post-test. They've passed the unit test and the course test, and it seems that they're ready to take the GED. I would recommend that you give them the GED simulated test, which is what this is. That way you really have a good understanding of whether they're able to put the pieces together and pass the GED before you have them, go and take the test and maybe not pass it. If they don't pass the simulated test, they may need some additional work. Of course, we don't want the students to get discouraged, to go through all this time and energy, get out there to the test site, take the test, and not pass it. That's not going to be a good feeling for them. It's not going to be what we're trying to accomplish. There's too great of a likelihood that they will become discouraged and kind of give up. We want to help them accomplish this goal of passing the GED. And it's just an easy way for them to feel confident, for you to feel confident that they're ready. Now, there's 3 versions, so you can do that with an individual really like 3 times, essentially. So, maybe an individual goes through all the modules, they pass, all of the GED preparation courses at an 80% level, they master it. You give them the test pack for the test pack 1 for the GED simulated test, and they don't pass it, so they go back and rework through some of the modules, and then you give them the test 2 for the simulated GED test, and that time they passed it, so you're good to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you'll also want to add all of these test packs for the GED simulated test to your favorites, doing the same thing. So add to favorite, you go to favorite content, you're going to go to test pack, because remember, this is different than a course. So if you added it to your favorites and you go to favorite content and you're alarmed that it's not there, remember, test pack, there it is. You're going to want to add. Go ahead.
Is it way at the bottom? I'm looking for it. Test package.
When you go to the drop-down menu, it's the 3rd one down. Under resource type. Do you see it?
We're at PLATO content.
Okay.
We added, the courses before, the 1 GED test math, GED test RLA, GED test science, GED test social studies, to our favorites. Are those, besides those, is there another one that is a test simulator?
So the ones that you added are courses. Those aren't the test simulators. Those are the ones that are actually going to take them through modules. That's the kind of the classroom learning component, if you will, but it's online through the system. That's when they're going to learn the material. So that's what actually they're going to start with. They're going to go through all the preparation material in order to prepare for the GED. Once they've done that, you see where it says resource type and there's a drop down, the one should say PLATO courses. It says resource type. Right above it, it'll say all subjects for grades K through adult in blue.
Test pack. Oh, okay. So it says either test package for GED test, that one, or the test package for GED assessment, PLATO. Oh, PLATO simulated test package.
So that's what No, that's what we were talking about before. The new version is the Admentum test pack for GED with the registered trademark R with a circle around it. The old version is still on there. They changed the GED in 2014, so it's still available if you want it, but you probably won't need it. The first one on the list, if you expand it and expand, you'll see that for each section of the GED, there is 3 versions of the test, so that you can give them a simulated test 3 times if need be. So you're going to want to add each one of these as you expand it and go through to your favorite content as well. So it's all under your favorites where you want it. You don't have to do that now, but next time you log in, you're going to want to go through and do that.
Okay.
Brian?
Yes.
ability to select numerous or multiple titles or selections at once? Or no, each one has to be done individually?
I think you have to do it all individually. I think um, I, I think it's, to keep it simple. I think that, which is usually a good thing in general, because it's easy to learn how to use, and you can focus on using it quickly to assign content to your students as opposed to learning a complicated system. Because of that goal, some of those advanced features like selecting everything at once are not there. They may develop that in the future, but I don't, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think that's available currently. But remember, what we're talking about here is adding all of this to your favorites right off the bat the next time you're logged in. So that way, it's all there for you, and you don't have to go back and kind of sift through. Even though both under courses and test packs, GED's right at the top, it does make it easier to have it right there. What I'd like to do is just go back and just quickly give you a little example of what an actual course unit may look like. So for example, this is for social studies.
It's a cricket. I'm sorry, we got
What's that?
Don't kill it.
I'm sorry, we're in the middle of this and that cricket fell on our bed.
Oh, geez. Look out. Hey, it's better than a wasp that we had in our house yesterday, so at least it's harmless. Okay, so if you're watching the Google Hangouts broadcast, you can now see that we are going through one of the tutorials for PLATO, which shows specifically, this is part of the this is one tutorial from the first unit of the social studies course for the GED preparation. But the idea here is to give you just to give you a snapshot of what PLATO looks like, what the students are going to be engaged in. This is the actual learner experience. So you can see there'll be an objective. It indicates that you'll need a dictionary, so whether that is just accessing an online dictionary or having a dictionary handy for the students. You can go into chapters, sections, and I would recommend that as an instructor you go through some of this. Talks about what a historical allusion is. A historical allusion is an event or person from the past used to indirectly describe a more current event or person. This provides an example from the first President George Bush. So it continues on. Some of them have audio, some of them have video, some of them just have pictures and examples, but that gives you an idea of what the courses look like. And again, I would recommend as an instructor that you go through and really almost kind of click through a lot of these different units here. Strategy for reading history, reading and writing essays about history. It'll just help you to become familiar with what the students are going to experience. You'll know what students might need. For example, on that last one, they needed a they needed a dictionary, and of course you can access a dictionary online. But what is that?
No, I was able to access another YouTube, so I don't know what happened on PLATO. So we were like, okay, so we'll be able to see.
Okay. So that's what I'd like. So now I'd like to kind of move on, but just to quickly recap, in terms of getting your courses where you want them, you're going to go to PLATO content, you're going to click each one of these one by one, and when you click one, you're going to add to favorite. Click one, add to favorite. Click one, add to favorite. And then for each of these, of the 4 sections of the GED, once you've added them, you'll have them right there handy. Then, remember, there's 2 pieces. There's the course preparation. There's the preparation coursework, which is what they're really going to go through to prepare for the GED. Then there is essentially the test simulator, which is what you're going to administer to them prior to having them go and take the actual GED test to ensure that they're ready, so that both yourself and the student are confident that they're ready to take the test. Remember, since it's a test, it's not under PLATO courses, it's under test packs, and it's the first one right up here. You can tell because it has the trademark symbol with the R circle around it, or just by opening it up you can see that it has the new extensive version of the GED. For each one of these, you're probably going to want to go through and add them to your favorites. You don't have to do that. You can assign content directly from PLATO content. It just kind of separates what you know you want to use, and it has it in a nice bucket under favorite content for you. Any questions about that component?
So,
Okay.
No.
All right. Now let's take a look. Now remember, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So to assign content, you could just do it right from this screen. You could assign content, create a title, you could put instructions for learners. Now selecting learners, for my account, since I'm the administrator, you're going to see I have all these locations. For you all, you're just going to have the Latino Education Fund. Boom. You can select everyone under the class that you create, and you can assign that specific content. Now we're going to look at, you can do this multiple ways. It pretty much guides you into the direction. But we're going to take a step back and go back to home so I can show you you know, how it kind of looks getting up to that point to make it efficient. So you've already created a class. Give it your class name. Again, you're only going to have the Latino Educational Fund. The grade level is somewhat irrelevant for us. A lot of school districts use it, and it's much more critical. But you probably just want to select grade 12 because it's a GED prep course. You may or may not want to add a class description if you're breaking them out by you know, schedule or location or maybe level. Maybe you have some sort of an understanding and you group the students into level, or maybe you just kind of lump them into one class. So you can add a description, it's up to you. Adding learners, so you can create new learners directly from here, and you should be able to just kind of rapid fire add them all at once. So if you add a bunch of people, what you'll want to do is use pretty much, we recommend you use a general naming convention, a standard naming convention. We recommend that you use first initial last name under PLATO name. If that first initial last name already exists, you can add a 2 at the end of it. You could add an exclamation point at the end of it, something like that, just to differentiate it. So first initial last name, I generally add a 2. Password, we usually start with first initial last name exclamation point, and then you'll send the PLATO name and password to your students, and they can change their password if they'd like to. You can add a bunch of students at once. So that's an efficient way to do it. Now you can do add existing users to the class. So if you've already created some students, which I know you have, boom, there's Johnny Cervantes. And you can add him to the class as well. So you can kind of do everything you want to do, whether you've already added some students, you want to add some new students, you can do it all here. That is the way to go about it, by selecting create a class from this point. You can of course get to the same place by creating a learner, and it's going to prompt you. It'll say, do you want to create these learners in an existing or a new class? Well, if you already have the class set up, you'll do it in an existing class, so you can add learners to your class at any time. We're going to assume that you don't have a class set up and leave it as new class, and this gets you right back to that same screen. So it's almost as if, regardless of where you click to start the process in terms of classes, contents, assignments up here, or set up, create a class, create a learner, or assign a content over here, you get to the right place. I mean, there's some things you need to differentiate. For example, if you go to assign content and you're assigning them the PLATO preparation coursework, you want to go to PLATO courses. If you're assigning them the test simulator, you're going to go to test packs. Now let's start here and assign PLATO courses. So you can give you can give the assignment a title. You could break out the assignment. You could just have the assignment may just be, for instance, when you scroll down here, it may be the entire preparation for the GED test math. And maybe you call this GED preparation test math. That's what you call the assignment, something like that. Maybe you just assign a unit one by one. Generally, it sounds like you all want to be able to assign them more. It's going to limit you so that you can only assign them one course section at a time. So the math is considered one course, which is probably a good thing. They can get through the math section, feel good, then you assign them the reading and language arts section, and then science and social studies, and then of course you'll likely, once they've gone through all those courses, you'll likely assign them the test pack before they take the test, the simulated test. Of course, it's similar to some of those other screens. To select learners, you're not going to see all of these other locations. But under Latino Educational Fund, you will see GED Prep, GED Preparation, or another course. You can select learners. So every learner that you've added under GED Preparation, when you just click that class, it's going to assign it to all the learners. Going back to home, again, so for example, one way to go about it, and I might even recommend this, it's easy to use, so I don't want to give too many guidelines on how to do things because you'll be able to figure out what works best for you. But the first step, of course, is going in here and putting everything that you need under your favorite content. And if you're going to have the courses and then the test packs. You're going to have more than just this one. I only added one. Once you have done that, you're probably going to want to go in and create a class. So again, it's only going to have your location. You're going to create a class name. You'll probably want to select 12. It's up to you whether you want a class description. You're going to add existing users probably to your class because you've added a couple already. So you may, add Johnny, add users to the class. Then you may want to add a bunch of additional. So you'll go to create new learners. You'll add all of those using the PLATO naming convention. Boom, boom, boom. Then you'll see, once you've added that, you'll see a more extensive list here. And then when you hit done, you have created a class. Now, once you have, so the first step is putting the GED content into your favorite content just as a convenience. Then you're probably going to want to create a class with, of course, the idea being that you want to consolidate your students into a group so you can easily assign them. You may have more than one group. However you have the students grouped, I would recommend that you set up your classes that way. Once you have created that class, then you're going to want to go ahead and assign them PLATO courses. So you may give the title GED Test Math. You're going to select all of that GED Test Math. Again, title may reflect that. It's up to you. It'd probably be easier to keep track of and so forth. And then you're going to select learners. You won't have all these different locations. You'll just have the Latino Education Fund. Let's, just for the sake of demonstration, let's say that the class I just created theoretically is called GED Prep, and there's Johnny and then a bunch of other students here. You're going to click just GED Prep. It'll assign it to all those students, or you can just do individual learners if you want to do it that way. And then you would, of course, go down here. Do you want learners who are added to this class to receive this assignment? That's up to you. It depends on how you want to structure things. You can select yes or no. So what that means is that if you add a learner to the class after the fact, you want them to be assigned the content that's already been assigned. Do you want learners added to this assignment to retain mastery and exemption data from overlapping activities they completed in previous assignments? On this one, again, it'll be up to you. The idea here is that if they retained mastery in a specific unit and they, for some reason, faltered once you got to the test, the simulated test level, you may want to have no selected because you don't want the system to recognize it at a mastery level if they didn't pass the simulated test, because you probably want them to go through it again. Does that part make sense?
Yes, but Brian, if you've chosen yes or no, how do you go back and change it again?
You can change it, absolutely. You can do that. Let me show you in a sec. How long should it, let me just finish this out and we'll go back and I'll show you how that works. How many times should a learner be allowed to unlock a mastery test? I would say unlimited in this circumstance. You know, there's other circumstances where a student may be in a course that really is being used for like an actual high school course, and they need to be able to pass something within a certain amount of times to get credit and pass the course. But in this situation, we want to do everything in our power to help them pass the GED. So we don't want to lock them out of mastery test if they failed it. We want them to be able to go through the unit again in order to get mastery and move on. So I would leave that at unlimited. You can set individual learner assignment dates if you'd like. That way, that could potentially just give you the opportunity to keep a class open and have learners come in and out if you wanted to. You know, I would probably recommend organizing at a more specific level than that, so that either having cohorts or assigning content by schedule, that they're actually there with you going through things, or whether it's by month or date. You know, it could, you know, we're talking about 25 students. That's the goal here. We want to get 25 students to prepare for and pass the GED. So it's not an unwieldy amount of people, but it could get a little messy to have students coming in and out with setting individual learner assignment dates. So to make a long story short, generally I would just leave this not checked, and I would encourage instructors to break up their classes in a way that they're comfortable organizing the groups. But again, that is up to you. I'd recommend that you play with it, kind of learn how it works, get a feel for the system. Again, it's not complicated, but that will allow you to know that before you have an influx of students, you already know generally how you want to set things up, how you want to assign content, and so forth. Now, any questions on that before we go into how to change a setting? Okay. So you have created a class. You decided that after the fact that you do want learners that are added to be able to receive this assignment. You want to go ahead and change it to yes. You're going to go to classes, one of these icons. You're going to go in, and again, you'll only see Latino Educational Fund. You go into GD Prep, manage class. Sorry, that was the wrong. You can go to classes, my classes.
Already. Okay.
Let's see.
So maybe the. Okay.
Now the other thing is you can enable the class for self-enroll. You probably don't need that in this situation.
Brian?
Yes.
What screen are you on there? What tab?
I'm just jumping around a little bit because I'm trying to provide an answer to Eric's question here.
Okay.
Manage assignments. Okay, here it is. So it's that was my mistake. It's actually under assignments. So when you create a class, you're going to assign something to them, and if you wanted to change this setting, do you want learners who are added to this class to receive this assignment? This is currently listed as yes. You would basically just go into assignments, and you're just going to have Latino Education Fund here on the left. You're going to go into whatever course it is, select it, and then manage assignments. It will also be under my assignments on the previous screen, and then you could just change it from yes to no, whatever you want there. You can change the mastery level, but I would just leave that as unlimited. So, but generally, I would recommend that you kind of determine whether you want learners who are added to this class to receive the assignment before you start. I would say, okay, I'm going to set up a structure where students are going to come in at during the middle of an assignment, or I'm going to stick with one class and then create a new class. You can figure your structure out. You can always assign that content to those individuals, even if you checked yes and you wanted it to be no. Or excuse me, I should say, if you checked no and you want it to be yes, you can always just assign any content. So there's some flexibility there. And once you actually start assigning content with individual users, you'll get a much better feel for how you want to work it. So I would stay flexible when you first start with that first class, and then kind of make adjustments as you go.
Okay.
My final thought is the best way to get comfortable with it is just get in there, play around with it, go through the modules yourself just to see what they look like. The other thing you can do is you can create a test user that you can log in and see what it looks like from the learner student's perspective. But just get in there, play around with it. It's pretty easy to use. Once you are able to assign content to your students that first start, you're good to go. and it'll become more familiar. But really, it is a very easy system to use, and we have very few headaches experienced from folks out in the field that use it. We rarely get calls about difficulty, challenges. Almost everyone that uses it finds it easy and effective with their students.
Right, real quick. I don't see the question about if they've done the mastery.
The number of tries to tutorial completion can unlock mastery. Oh, okay. So that may be a administrative setting, which is good because you probably should just leave it as unlimited. So we decided that the default would be unlimited, and I rarely change that, or I don't think I've ever changed it, because we've never had a situation where you wouldn't want it unlimited. So it sounds like you won't even need to worry about that piece.
Oh, no, not that one. That's the other one about about the mastery. Like you're mentioning, if they take the exam and they need to go back, and it was a yes/no question. It was right after do you want learners who are added to the class.
Yeah, let me go back and take a look at this. Do you want learners to be added to retain mastery and exemption?
Right.
Okay, let's go up to assignments here. I believe the answer to that is because we had it set at no, because you're still able to apply past credit. So I would think that that would allow, if you know that that individual had past credit and you wanted to give it to them, you could click apply past credit. If we had it selected as yes, I believe that you would have the option to change it. That's why you're not seeing it. And I would recommend just leaving that default setting.
Okay.
Generally, we just recommend you leave those default. I just like to go through and let you know what you have available in case you like to do things a little bit differently. But that shouldn't really be a problem. If you get in a situation where that is a problem, I'm a phone call away. There is, you can contact the PLATO help desk as well. They're very helpful, and you shouldn't get stuck in a spot where you're kind of all screwed up because of that. But I believe that that's why apply past credit is showing, because we're not automatically giving them past credit for a mastered course, but if for some weird reason a student came in off the street and they already had prepared for the GED math and they didn't get through the rest of the preparation and you felt like they were ready to go, you could apply past credit for some reason, but really you're probably going to want them to pre-test out of it anyway just to make sure. The worst thing is to have a student who feels really confident and kind of cuts corners on the preparation piece and then doesn't end up successfully passing the test or takes the simulated test and has to go back and start from square one. They're going to have to put some time in. The GED is much more challenging than it used to be. It's doable, but you just have to knuckle down and put the time in. The great thing about PLATO is it's an engaging, interactive tool that's good for a lot of different types of learners, and they can kind of work through it at their own pace. You know, hopefully you have some flexible hours that they can come in and access the computers. They have a computer at home, which a lot of our students don't. They can't access at home, and it's just not quite as brutal as it can be for sitting in a classroom lecture style for a lot of learner types and students, especially students who have dropped out of high school. You know, they're probably, I would guess that there's probably greater likelihood that they fall in the category of a learner type that the traditional in-classroom lecture style environment doesn't work super well for them. So, any other questions?
No, we're good. We just what we're going to do is we're going to play with it so that, like you suggested, because we know with the software. We've confirmed some things, and then you clarified others for us, so that make it seem very easy, Brian.
Yeah, and it is. It's easy. Sometimes it can seem a little. I know a lot of people go in expecting it to be complicated, so they get a little hesitant. It's not. It's pretty straightforward. It's focused on ease of use. Get the content assigned to the students. Your real role is not so much like a technical administrator. Your real role is like a proctor in classroom support instructor role, where different students might be at different modules, they're progressing, but every once in a while you may need to jump in to assist, provide guidance, and so forth. So you can operate a classroom with multiple students progressing at multiple levels, paces, and be able to assist all of them and still provide that in-person encouragement and support, but again, have the flexibility and ability to be dynamic, because with a GED group, as you know, you're going to have a lot of different levels potentially that will be in one classroom space. And the ability to help one student who's struggling in one area without holding back another student who really is kind of flying either through the entire preparation coursework or just through a certain section is absolutely available. That's the whole idea behind PLATO. And the other part of that is other students won't know necessarily where a student is at, what they're struggling with. It's not as much on display when a student is struggling. So it can be easier for a student to kind of get through their challenges, work with you, feel comfortable around their peers if maybe they never even got a basis for some of the math that's on the GED when they were in school. They could deal with that in a much more comfortable environment than maybe in an in-classroom situation where they may decide to give up or just kind of, quit or not, put their best foot forward because they're afraid of being embarrassed or humiliated in front of their peers, which, sounds somewhat silly, but it's actually a huge concern. In this situation, you can avoid that more easily.
Right.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, right.
Yes.
Is there a report that tries to show everything that's been assigned to every student?
Yes. Sorry about that. We almost missed the reports. Reports are pretty easy, but you have you go in here. You're not going to see the system reports. You'll see, assignment module mastery. We'll go into this. You generate a spreadsheet or a PDF. The PDF just looks a little prettier if you wanted to use it for a report or to, something that's going to be presented to someone. this kind of tells you the number of modules. You know, it looks like Johnny's been putting some time in, which is great. Spreadsheet, just you can manipulate the data. You can pull it into Excel. Now let's go back. Class usage summary. I don't know if you guys probably aren't able to. Are you able to see the class usage summary on the Google Hangout?
Yeah.
You can?
No.
Okay, let me go ahead and share that piece so you can see it.
Okay. Good.
So this shows you, you know, how many learners enrolled, their progress. That's for class usage. Learner daily usage by class and assignment. This is probably the one that you'll want to use for that particular purpose in terms of seeing all of the students progressing all of their assignments as you mentioned. Okay, that's not working. Oh, so I haven't since I'm logged in under my name, and I'll show you what it looks like here so you can see it. So since I'm logged in under my name, there's no records found, but essentially this is probably one of the reports that you want to use for that purpose. You can see the learner daily usage by class and assignment. You'll be logged in under your name, so you'll have assigned the content and courses, which I am unable to do. The key really with the reports is just, again, I would get in there, look at the different reports, detailed score. You know, this is detailed score is one. Let me switch this back so you can see. Okay. Now let me show you what this looks like here. Okay, so detailed score is going to be really all of the assignments. You'll have the list of learners. This is, I believe this is the most comprehensive report. So that's one you'll want to note, the detailed score report. So it's going to show you the pre-test, post-test, everything, you know, that they go through for the classes that they've been assigned, how they scored, how they fared, and that really gives you like a clear snapshot for every student with everything all at once. It's a big spreadsheet, but it's useful. But again, with the reports, you just gotta get in there, look at them. You'll want to get a few students up and running. I mean, you can do it with one student, but sometimes it's helpful to have a few students up and running to get a feel for, you know, what reports you want to use. But they're easy to use, and you know, some of them do the same things. There's some overlap, but you just have to poke around with it and see what you like best, what's going to work for your approach as an instructor. All right. Any other questions?
But just for clarification, Brian, you said to we can familiarize ourselves as far as what the student is.
What they see, yes. Yeah, I would just make sure you include test in the, I would include test in the first name and last name if you can, but that way it's clearly a test person, and we can delete that after the fact if you'd like, or you can just keep that account open. Shouldn't really negatively impact anything. It's just you'll have a learner account so you can go in and see what they're seeing if you need it, and it's just helpful, especially before you get rolled with a bunch of students. I'd recommend that in the near future. You'll have to assign that test person content and stuff, don't forget, but you know, and that will also help you get a you know, a better grasp on the relationship between assigning content and what the student ends up with, because it'll really crystallize. Oh, I'm logged in as the test person. I thought I assigned this, but I don't have it. Let me go back and see what I did wrong or how I should assign it to them. So keep that in mind, that if you can't see it when you're logged in as the test person, you got to assign that content or add them to the class.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Brian, for taking this time to help us. Barry?
Good. Thank you, Brian. Yeah.
Not a problem. And remember, I'm a phone call away. If you have any questions or if something comes up, the PLATO support line is very useful as well, and you can just access that. It's under Help, under Account Options, right there in the main portal, and they also have some tutorials and so forth. So just get in there, explore, take an hour here and there over the next few days, and get comfortable with it, and you should be good to go. I think you'll find it'll be easy, and you'll be able to focus much more on helping your students progress than you will on headaches with the system, which is the goal.
Okay, good.
All righty.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys did a good job.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Okay. Bye now.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.